Welcome back to the Fantasy Backpack. Now today we're going to do quarterback rankings, start sits. But before we get into that, make sure you hit the subscribe button, make sure you hit the notification button, and leave a comment, hit the like button, hit the dislike button, whatever. Tell me what it is that you think should be different. Because I guarantee you the way I do things, a lot of people might think it should be done different. But today we're going to do start sits like I said. Now I'm going to warn you, right? I do my QB rankings a little bit different than everyone else. First of all, I don't care about name brand. I go on matchups and statistics and weather and everything based off of stuff like that. So I'm not putting your name up there just because you're expected to do something or expected to be good. And I also separate the 1 o'clock games from the 4 o'clock, the 8 o'clock, and the Monday night games. They're all ranked, but they're ranked into two separate categories, 1 o'clock games and then 4 o'clock and beyond games. Because, I don't know, it might just be me, but I think people in 4 o'clock games score more than people in 1 o'clock games. So if I have two guys that are ranked similar and I have both of them on my team, I'd start the guy in the later game than the guy in the earlier game. It's just one of those things, but it's worked out. I haven't done the stats on it yet. It's just one of those feelings things. That's how I do it. Plus, it helps out for daily fantasy. If you do 1 o'clock and 4 o'clock and whatever the single games, it helps you see where to go with it. At least for me, it does. So hopefully it helps you the same. So welcome to the Fantasy Backpack. Let's get into it. Okay, so here we go. Here's the rankings. So you can see, if you take a look at my rankings, like I said, I separate them into week 8, 1 p.m. versus the 4 p.m. through Monday night. It just helps me with everything rather than having to do, a daily different ones. I've been doing this for a while and it's worked out. Hopefully it works out and you'll see it. If you use it, you'll see how it works out for you. So let's get into the 1 p.m. games. Because I have Jameis Winston listed as the number 1 quarterback here does not mean I think he's the number 1 overall quarterback. The number 1 overall quarterback I think this week is Aaron Rodgers. But because of the way I separate them, you can make the distinction yourself, or you can use this to help you guide you. Now, I have, before anyone says anything, most rankings you'll see, Patrick Mahomes is on top. Patrick Mahomes is always 1 on every ranking. Now, so let me just go through a list of maybe 7 or 8 of these, because some of them become irrelevant after a while. Now, Jameis Winston's averaging 385 yards over his last 2 games. Now, the last game, he didn't get a touchdown, but the game prior to that, he had 4 touchdowns. Cincinnati gives up 300 yards a game. So either he is drastically going to not average 385 yards, or Cincinnati is somehow going to become better. Now, he's going to throw interceptions because that's what he does, but this is fantasy football. Interceptions don't really hurt you that much. You want that 400 plus yards or 385 yards and 2 touchdowns or whatever it is that you can come up with. Cincinnati's defense ranks top 5 and lowest in every category. So for me to sit here and say he can't be number 1 is asinine considering what he's done the last 2 games. So he's number 1 in the 1 o'clock games for me. Number 2 is Ben Roethlisberger. Now, Ben Roethlisberger in his last game against Cleveland had 335 yards, an interception, a touchdown, and 3 interceptions. He played horribly. He connected on barely over 50% of his passes, yet still managed 335 yards and a touchdown, 3 interceptions. I don't think that's going to happen again. So if you take away 3 interceptions, let's give him 1 interception. I think the yardage is going to go up, and he's going to score way more. Now, the reason I dropped the Patrick Mahomes down to 3 is he's playing Denver, and Denver was the only team to hold him to just 1 touchdown. Still had over 300 yards. So not like I'm saying he's going to suck. I'm going to say next to him, if the way Denver plays, Denver really thrives on certain matchups and going to get it. So in that game, he should have thrown at least 2 picks. They were dropped. So, and that left-handed pass, remember that? So he pulled off a lot of stuff to get to where he got to, just to average out to where he got to. So in my research and all the numbers, I'm saying I don't think he's going to be the number one quarterback this week. He could go absolutely bonkers and do what he's normally been doing. But the likelihood, which is what I deal with, the likelihood is that he is under 300 yards and maybe throws a touchdown, maybe two. But Denver's not very good at run defense. So Kareem Hunt should go nuts. But then again, they consider those little toss-up plays a pass. So he might score one of those too. Another thing is, they ran roughshod over the left side on Chubb's side away from Von Miller. I'm guessing Denver's going to fix that. So I don't think the game is going to be as crazy as it was in terms of what he had to do just to manage to get where he ended up. That's why he drops to third. Again, not a bad start. Just I think Winston and Roethlisberger are going to do better. Now, Andy Dalton. Do not be afraid of Andy Dalton. If Andy Dalton wasn't Andy Dalton and I could trust him or anyone could trust him, he would probably be up in the number one spot here. But after last week, where he didn't score against Kansas City and everybody scores against Kansas City, it's hard to trust him. But this matchup is so juicy. I mean, so juicy. You have to play him. You have to give him that love here again. Not only that, I think AJ Green and Boyd are going to go absolutely nuts. AJ Green is my number one play for wide receiver. I'm going to release those later, but the wide receivers and the running backs later. But AJ Green is my number one play. He is going to destroy those cornerbacks in Tampa Bay. It doesn't matter who is on him. So Andy Dalton, get a man his respect. If he doesn't do it this time, he might as well not be on anyone's roster ever again. Just done with him. Trubisky, I do not like Trubisky, but his legs and his ability to run, he's Cam Newton of old. Cam Newton of old, where he is barely completing 50% of his passes, but his legs are keeping drives alive, and he's able to run for touchdowns. So he gets the nod right here. Case Keenum. Now, Case Keenum, I like to build games not just on stats, but on emotion and just raw competitiveness. Case Keenum last game against Denver, he wasn't very good, but he had the opportunity to be very good. He just missed passes and was off completely. I'm expecting a much better game from him. If he completed on just two of those long passes, I'm thinking about the one down the right sideline that he had Demarius wide open and overthrew him by like 3 yards out of bounds. Just that alone would have made his day so much different. So I'm expecting a lot from him this game. Baker Mayfield, it's Pittsburgh. They're going to score. So I'm giving him some of this love for him to score as well. Pittsburgh can't. I mean, he's going to throw interceptions. This is just a purely based on, I think he's going to get the volume to get the yards. I'm not sure if the touchdown's there, and Pittsburgh's pass defense stinks. So this is a pure speculation on what he's going to have to do to stay in the game. So Russell Wilson over his last 2 games has averaged 3 touchdowns. He's not throwing the ball a lot, but he's averaged 3 touchdowns. And I think it's a direct correlation to Baldwin being back and running the same amount of routes and doing everything, and his number one target is there. So I expect him to still do what Russell Wilson does, and that's not pass the ball a whole lot, but get touchdowns. That's what he's always done, but he's used his legs. I'm thinking he starts using his legs this game because Detroit added Snacks Harrison from the Giants, so the run game may not be as pure and as good as it's been, so he's probably going to have to extend plays himself. So I'm expecting a good game. Now, the right side of this bracket, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, I really don't want to play any of these people. Cam Newton might do Cam Newton things, but it's against Baltimore. Baltimore's the one defense that's been really good. But Cam Newton sometimes surprises you and have those games where he scores 2 touchdowns running, and you wish you had started him. So I don't really want to touch any of this. And I know you see Blake Bortles over here, and you're like, why would you start him over Joe Flacco and Carson Wentz? Joe Flacco is away playing in Carolina. Carolina's defense is legit. Flacco away hasn't been the greatest. He's been pretty good this year, but I still don't trust Flacco. And Blake Bortles, London Boils. That man has been phenomenal in London. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's throwing for 250 yards and 2 touchdowns. Plus the Westbrook matchup that he has in this game against Philly is beautiful. So in Delhi, if you want to pick fire play, Bortles with Westbrook, nice play. Carson Wentz, I think this is a get-right game for Jacksonville. They're still the top defense in the league, and even though they've been bad in normal standards that we see people are putting up points, they've just been bad because of field position. They've been put into bad field position by their offense, so they actually are still not giving up a ton of yards, but they are in bad field position, so they're getting scored on. I think this is a get-right game for them since everything's been bad and they're great in London. If this is a get-right game, Carson Wentz, Alshon Jeffries, that's a tough start for me. You might have to start them, but I list them here to show you that I'm not willing to start them. So if you have another choice, by all means, go ahead. Stafford, the curious case of Stafford, they play Seattle. Stafford plays Seattle. And no, it's not Stafford. There you go. Stafford plays Seattle, and he has not been throwing the ball as much as Matthew Stafford does. He's efficient. He's only thrown 1 interception since that god-awful New England game, but I don't care about efficiency. Can you score me fantasy points? There's a reason Blake Bortles has been like top 12 in fantasy every year, because winning efficiency, that doesn't mean anything to me in fantasy. That means something to you in real life, in regular football. But in fantasy, I need you to be throwing the ball 38 times, not 25 times. So I see them starting to run and leaning towards the run now. So they're going to mix it up, which is good for the team, but not good for fantasy. Alex Smith plays a broken Giants team that are just giving away all their players, but Alex Smith doesn't like to throw the ball anywhere. AP is a great play this week running the ball against the Giants since they want to give away Snacks, who's the number one and only reason they can stop anyone running the ball. Eli could do well this game, and it's going to be predominantly to Odell and Saquon. But they could do well depending on field position, depending on what Alex Smith decides to do. Sam Darnold, he's playing Chicago, who Chicago might come out and just destroy the Jets here. No. But, so, the 4 p.m. to Monday night games, this is where the real money is. This is where the real quarterbacks are. This is where the money makers are. Aaron Rodgers, coming off a bye, got a week to get healthy. Most likely we'll get Geronimo Allison and Cobb back. I'm going to say this right now, and I'm going to say this loud so you can hear me. This is going to be the first game that the Rams lose. Aaron Rodgers is going to put up 3-4 touchdowns against the Rams and give the Rams their first loss. Now, the Rams' defense has been bad. They've been beating people with their offense and the ability to maintain in the last games, just giving Gurley the rock over and over and over. Aaron Rodgers, over his last 3 games, has thrown for 400 yards. He is going to throw for probably 385 yards and 3 touchdowns. That's my number I'm going in there, giving Rodgers the number 1 start. Next guy up is Tom Brady. I put Brady here over Breeze and Luck because Brady's playing Buffalo. And Bill knows Buffalo. Bill knows all of his division. And Buffalo just gave up 4 touchdowns to Andrew Luck. And Andrew Luck only threw like 25 passes or something like that. Buffalo's defense is pretty good, but if their offense could do anything, then I would drop Brady down, but I don't know if their offense can do anything. Drew Brees, this game is a little bit of a out of respect for Drew Brees type thing. He's been really good, but I think they're going to have to run the ball more because Minnesota has... I apologize. I think they're going to have to run the ball more because Minnesota has a pretty good defense when it comes to those cornerbacks. So I don't know if they can continue to just do it, but Breeze is on one of those things where he's setting records the team should have won last year. It's one of those, Cinderella type things for him where they're going to he's just going to continually be good no matter who it is. Andrew Luck plays the Raiders. And I'm going to start anyone that plays the Raiders pretty highly from here on out. He's just going to run all over them. I mean, Buffalo and the Raiders, pretty much the same type of team. The Raiders probably could put up some points against the Colts, but it's pretty much the same type of team. Kirk Cousins should have a good game, but I'm guessing Thielen gets better coverage against from the Saints, Lattimore, and then they added Eli Apple from the Giants. Common theme here: Giants are just giving people players. Eli Apple from the Giants. I think there's better coverage on Thielen, so he doesn't go nuts. And I don't know if I trust Diggs as much. He hasn't been very good. He's gotten all the targets, but I don't know if I trust him as much this game. So these Breeze, Cousins, it can go nuts, or it can be a quiet game for either one of them. Jared Goff, he is... Oh, I didn't change these numbers. My apologies. These numbers should say 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, not 9, 10, or whatever. I didn't change these numbers, so my apologies here. So this is 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Jared Goff he's quietly not been good. They haven't needed him to be real good because Gurley's just gone nuts. That might be part of the plan because of Kupp being out and Cook's coming back from his concussion and not being okay. But I don't know. This game, they're going to need him to keep up with Rodgers. And that's the reason why I think they're going to lose. They're going to now need him to facilitate and then find end zone targets without Kupp being there. So I see this being a good game for him, but a game in which he might throw 2 picks. Yep. Derek Carr, he's the best of the rest. C.J. Beathard, Josh Rosen, Derek Anderson. If you're starting those guys, you got problems. So, but this is quarterback sit start for the week, the 1 p.m., 4 p.m., and 8 o'clock in Monday game. Listen, I want you to subscribe, hit the notification button, show the boy some love. I do this just because I actually like doing it, and I figured people would like to see something a little different than the norm. You can take everybody else's rankings, all of them, and put them in the same box. Because I think they all just use the same, this team sucks, this guy should be good. Whereas I'm going into whether the line is doing this, whether this guy's out, whether the weather is good, I'm giving you something that's different. And then when you check it at the end of the week, you'll be like, oh, okay, that kind of made sense. All right? So, TFB, the Fantasy Backpack. Get in. Let's go win some championships.